you're making this amateur tournament into something bigger than it actually is, which it's just, like we're competing at white belt, blue belt. It doesn't become uh, like legitimate until you really have black belt, right? For
Yeah.
Competing in these tournaments. So I mean, nobody cares that Gordon Ryan lost when he was a blue belt. He lost a bunch of times when he was a blue belt, and he was competing like every weekend. Like nobody thinks about that. Nobody gives a fuck.
No.
It doesn't matter.
He never even truly got good until he was a black belt, I think.
Yeah, well,
I
I
think
don't.
That's when he turned the corner.
Yeah, like I wasn't following jiu-jitsu too close when he was on his rise. I was kind of like really into jiu-jitsu, and then when he was coming up, I fell off for a bit, and so I'm not sure how like what he was like at like purple or brown or whatever, but yeah, I mean, when it comes to these competitions, man, like I give zero fucks. I just want to. I just use it as an opportunity to be free to test out my skills, and like you don't have to hold back. You can just fucking and then try to put on a show for the boys.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Like, and I don't get like I feel like I'm a really good competitor. Like my competitiveness and like on competition, I can focus in. I can compete at a higher level in the moment than I can like on my best training days. Like I'm better at like on the day of a competition than I am in training, because I don't try that hard in training. Like I'm more focused on learning, right, and learning from myself and from the people I roll with. So in the competition, I can just fight, and I know I'm good at fighting, just straight up fighting, just and like turning things into a fight, and being physical and having like a winning mindset in the moment, not quitting, right? So, and that comes from like a lot of the policing experience I have too. You can't afford to lose a fight when you're a cop.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So I try to go out there and like show the rest of the guys like this is what it should look like when you're competing. Like just fucking get after it, and there's no reason to be nervous. It's not a big deal. Nobody cares, and nobody's going to know if you lose. Nobody's going to know if you win either.
That's right.
Like the tournaments that I've won, like nobody cares. Nobody knows. And so
no, it's all about you, and
yeah,
it's like you said,
you're competing against yourself.
Exactly, and if you start looking into things too much, and you get in your own head.
Yeah, totally.
I used to compete in Taekwondo.
Yeah,
a lot, like probably 6 or 7 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I hated was that for the weight divisions, they'd get you all to sit in line so you could see each other, because they're divvying you up, and then you notice people looking at you, and you're kind of looking around. And that was like the first time I thought, like, Jesus, I'm in a tournament.
Yeah.
Like, even we did that in-house, and it's not as intense.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm just going to class. It's just class.
Yeah.
So then I'm not freaking myself out.
Yeah. Yeah. Like when, like that guy that I showed you, like that bit of wrestling I did with him, that first match in Nogi, like he was trying to steer me down. Like I noticed him like looking at me and stuff. And then we squared off. He like staring me down and stuff. And my honest like thought is like, oh, that's cute. Like, if you only knew how crazy I am, that like, it's not even like that. You're staring me down and I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to show you now. Or you're staring me down and it's intimidating me. Like, I just don't care. Like, I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to do my thing regardless of what you're doing in this moment. And, just try to stop me. If you stop me, cool. Like, but
what's it like going from like 16 years of altercations, basically, in the most high level, like you said, if you lose this fight, you die.
Yeah.
And then you're doing a tournament, like a local tournament.
That's the thing, right?
You got some guy staring you down.
Yeah. Must be, now, that's not to say like that just because you have that experience, like the cops, like a cop is going to not be nervous or whatever. Like they get nervous all the time for shit, right? But and I've always been like a composure guy, where I've always really focused on having good composure. I know, like when I was a younger teenager playing soccer on my soccer teams, I would be the penalty shot taker. You know, I'd take the penalty kicks because I just didn't get too sucked into the moment or whatever. I just got to do a task and perform. And so it's about like compartmentalizing that that situation and just not getting overwhelmed or overthinking things. I mean, like I compare it to this, like when I know, if I'm doing a tournament and I know the date I'm going to be fighting, I know approximately the time I'm going to be fighting, it's not a big deal. Like that's great. That's fun, right? Like, but when you're a cop, I mean, it could be 4 a.m. and your eyes are closing and you might have a fucking pizza sub in your belly and then the radio squawks and then you got to go fight some crackhead in a crack house on a kitchen floor where there's needles and rigs all over the place. And, you know, like that sucks. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, and when you're going into a situation where there's so many unknowns, if you walk through a door, you just don't know if you're going to get fucking shot or something, you know, or the guy's going to have a weapon on him. That's stuff that that eventually, like, I got immune to. I didn't get nervous about, but I mean, that stuff was nerve-wracking back in the day. So I guess a lot of times I just think I have that kind of perspective too. Like, so, I mean, what's the worst that can happen to me in this match? You know, am I going to die? Like, highly unlikely, no, you know, unless I have a heart attack or something.
That's
you know? Right. But, you know, like, and I don't have this huge ego either, where if I lose, then, you know, I'm gonna be embarrassed. And I know I'm gonna perform, and I'm gonna make it into a fight. So I'm not gonna be embarrassed over my performance. And that's that really. So it's good. It's really fortunate for me to have that kind of perspective.
Yeah.
And but everybody can have that perspective. You just kind of got to train your mind. You know, I was training my mind for that. I guess not conscious or not with like not like I guess unconsciously preparing my mind for those moments. You know what I mean? Like I was getting that experience without knowing I was getting that experience.
Was that on the force or?
Yeah. So like, you know, just, you know, cause I've been in a million fights, you know, like, so, like so many like physical altercations where people are using their fight or flight strength, which is, you know, that wiry kind of like, you know, you can feel it like when people are spazzing out and stuff. So like, I know what that strength is like. I know if somebody's going to be able to keep it up. I know how to kind of control my own breathing and when to try to get composed in certain positions and rethink. And so yeah, I mean, but I think the biggest thing of all is just like, it's not a big deal. You know, this is what we train for. So, and the other thing that I forgot to mention was, like, as a cop, you're used to having people looking at you all the time as well. Mm. And like, you could be at Walmart and fighting with a guy at Walmart, and there's a group of people watching you. And if you lose that fight as a cop in Walmart, and people got their cameras out, that's a lot worse than losing a competition against an opponent with, like, is somewhat a trained opponent in a competition setting. So, so you also get that experience in performing in front of people, right? So,
yeah, that makes sense. And I noticed that you're always really calm in class.
Yeah.
But even so, we were watching the stream.
Yeah.
And you were all sitting there, and a couple of boys were going up, and some people had that like deer in headlights look, and I can tell, you know, they're nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'd be nervous too. before I went up there.
Yeah.
But you're just kind of there doing the Tyson neck rolls and stuff. And I was like, okay, he's still calm and collected,
Yeah. I'm not overthinking anything. I'm not getting consumed by the moment. I'm just, the only thing that's kind of bugging me is I just want to get out there and do it. Because that was like a long day of competitions, and I like warmed up at noon, and then my first match wasn't until like 3:45, and then by the time my gi matches came around, it was like 5 or something like that. So
Damn.
so it's like, fuck, I just want to get it going, before my old body starts cooling down and seizing up, and so. But I do intentionally carry a bit of like good stress. I think like if you talk to my girlfriend, like I'll be a little bit irritable the day before, and because at the end of the day you're preparing to fight another guy, right?
Yeah.
So that's like, I think about these fighters that are in their training camps all the time, and and people will be critical of sometimes a fighter's mindset, or how agitated they might seem, or like, especially like if they're doing media and stuff. And it's like, yeah, because like the person, you're preparing for this one moment, and you need to get this, you just want to get there and do it. And you're just so to have yourself at a level where you need to be like a violent person in the moment, like, because I'm not a violent person like naturally, but to knowing that I'm going to have to be violent in a certain setting, then that makes me a little bit stressed, like, because I don't like being violent, but I like testing myself, and so I think that's kind of more the stress I deal with in that regard, right? But,
well, I mean, competing is stressful anyway, and it's a combat sport.
Yeah.
So it's like, you gotta. There's going to be times when you have to use bursts of energy,
right?
And
Yeah.
you got to feel somebody out, and at the same time they're trying to choke you to death. It's,
So I mean, like, and I'm always like pretty well prepared too. Like, preparedness is huge for that, for like lowering the stress levels and lowering the nervousness. If you've done all you can do, and then, I mean, it's just up for you to have fun in the moment and push yourself, see what you got, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it sounds silly, but I think the reason I kind of cool it on doing competitions nowadays is like, because I know the whole family got to go there, and if I lose, it'll like disillusion the kids a bit. Where they're like, "You're a fucking pussy, you're a pussy," but it's like,
but like my girlfriend was like recording like some of the matches, right? And so when I look back at the recording and I can hear her like reacting to stuff, I'm like, geez, like, like, because she cares more than I do, right?
Yeah.
She cares. She doesn't want to see me get hurt or see me get like smushed by a guy,
That's right.
So then, so I could totally see, like, I would actually rather not having her there, or any family, and just having the teammates there, and but they want to be there to see
Oh,
it
absolutely.
and support you. You know what I mean?
It's like the in-house was like fine because it was just me there.
Yeah, but the in-house was that in-house one we did. That's actually really good, like training for those competitions. Because even when it's in-house and you have like people, everybody there is is watching, it's still very, like, that doesn't happen in regular classes where it's everybody's just watching you versus another person. So it still translates in that way. Still gives you like a taste of that. Okay, the eyes are on me, to perform here. So that in-house tournament we did was a tough tournament, man. Like, that wasn't easy.
No, it was it was great. Well, it's cool because you can turn up the intensity.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about earlier, like
Yeah.
you know, when I'm training, I'm not trying to.
Right.
I'm not like trying to win.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to
Yeah.
get into a position where
Yeah.
you know I can get a technique. Sometimes I'll have one in mind,
Yeah.
but when you can just unleash yourself, it's like
Yeah.
anything could happen. You know,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. It's. I mean, yeah. Those competitions are like jiu-jitsu is, even though it's, you know, it's one versus one. It's a huge team sport, right? Because you're only really as good as uh, the people in your as the people in your gym. You know, if you're getting good rounds in with the people in your gym, and like they're the ones that are preparing you for that moment. So, uh, you know, and like when Dennis or Jeff are watching, and you know, and I win, like, am I gonna think I'm like I'm the best in that moment? It's like, no, Dennis could like fucking kick his flip flops off and come in and ball me up and
yeah.
easy, right?
There's levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so many levels in jiu-jitsu. It's crazy, right? So
I wonder if at some point, because clearly with Jeff and Dennis, you know, Dennis has a lot of natural talent as it is, and but
Yeah.
he's a higher level,
yeah,
and Jeff is too. And you know, as we climb the ranks, they're also going to continue to get better.
yeah.
So I guess you just never catch up.
Well, I mean, especially we're older than both of them,
Yeah.
right? So that's usually from like a teacher student perspective. Like the students are usually like younger than you know, and so like someday maybe I might be better than the coach or whoever. It's like, I'm never gonna be better than those guys. Like, you kidding me? Like, so it's you know, my ship has sailed, dude. Like,
That's right.
you
Yeah.
know? But 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 the goal is for me is just to be a better training partner for them, you know. So and for and to be a better training partner for everybody, right? So you know, that's what it is.
It makes sense. Yeah. I'd like to, my goal is to be able to teach some of the the higher technical
Mm,
pathways to people. Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to be comfortable
right.
where it's like, okay, well, now you move here, they're going to do this. Like,
Yeah.
just to really get into it and be,
Yeah.
read a lot of John Donaher stuff. He put out a
Right.
couple of books,
Yeah.
and like to just have that kind of level of knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
Is
And
he good?
What's that?
Is he good? Like, I know a lot of good trainers aren't great at like a sport.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's sick. But his hips are like, he's older, right? And he only started jiu-jitsu, I think, when he was like 30 or something. He was in other martial arts before that. But there's lots of stories of him back in the day, like fucking guys up and stuff. But and you know, he's like a serial killer or something, man. Like he's got that he's kind of got that little twinkle in his eye where he's capable of some extreme violence if he needs to be, right? So but that's just the thing. Like he's had like double hip replacement surgery, and
Oh,
I think his
okay.
knees are shot too, and whatnot. So, you know, it's just like, I mean, like Rickson Gracie. I mean, Rickson, you know, red belt, and Rickson back in his prime when he was like a freak athlete too. But I mean, Rickson now, I mean, he's older and he's had like health issues and whatnot. So like he just can't go like he used to be able to. But he definitely fucked me up, you know. But and Donaher would fuck me up too, right? So
Yeah.
even as like physically like as physically capable as I am, like, you know, like they're just so technical.
Technical skills definitely count.
Yeah.
Yeah, in jujitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish it was around when I was younger. I was
Yeah.
obsessed with Taekwondo,
Yeah.
but it was like around that time the UFC came out,
Yeah.
and I was on the pathway. Like, I competed all the time, and I was watching the UFC. I was like,
Yeah.
holy fuck, none of this would work. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I loved it, but like as soon as I discovered it, you know, when I was a young teenager, I guess, but there's no outlet, there's no wrestling here or anything. And I was,
No.
so I would always like wrestle my buddies, you know, and like one of my buddies was a big boxing guy, and he was like, back in the day, it was always like, you know, boxing versus the UFC or MMA, which one would be better or whatever. And he was always like, yeah, man, like, once if you catch you catch these hands, I mean, it's over, you know? So,
That's been proven otherwise, but
and I'd prove it to him, like, when we'd be fighting on the lawn, right? Like, you know, it's like, okay, like, you can strike, and, like, I'll try to take you down and stuff, and you know, so I didn't even know what I was doing, but I could double leg him, and, you know, and he might throw, like, a little punch, and I would, like, scuff my head, and I'd finish the takedown, and, you know, and but that's all we had here, right? It's just
Yeah.
fighting your buddies.
oh my god,
So,
it was all magic camps. It was like kung fu,
yeah,
taekwondo.
yeah,
There was a boxing gym,
yeah,
and there was no wrestling.
yeah,
There was a judo club, but even then, it seemed very
niche, I guess.
very niche. But like the old school
Right,
bow in,
right,
you know,
yeah,
show respect and all that stuff, and that's cool. But it wasn't like jujitsu. Jujitsu's
Yeah.
like so. Like you go in, there's music,
right,
people are chill. You know,
yeah,
it's a different animal.
yeah, and this
So
and jiu-jitsu is unique in the, like, you can spar like all day doing jiu-jitsu, like, as long as you're keeping it at a reasonable level, like, intensity wise, but you can get so many reps in with jiu-jitsu
yeah,
as opposed to other combat sports. Like judo, you're still getting tossed, and you're still, you know, like, how many times can you get thrown before you're like, okay, like, this is all I can take for this week or whatever. And any kind of striking martial arts, like, how many smacks to the head can I take before,
yeah.
you know, before this is a problem, you know? But
I found my ankles were the worst, and just kicking knees.
mm,
Like people would be kicking at the same time,
right,
and
yeah,
we just bash, and
yeah,
it was like, yeah, I think I might have a shin splint from it,
yeah.
but yeah. What was the other thing I seen? I'm gonna put up the videos in this of your match
Oh yeah,
where you pull up that judo guy and a
yeah,
couple of
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think he had a ton of experience in nogi stuff, so his posture was, like, a little bit too high, and so as soon as I clear the hands, and I know, like, what his footwork's like, I can just scoop a leg and
yeah.
take him down, you know?
Oh, he was definitely he was definitely skilled, but
Yeah,
you got in there and it was Jaws loved it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I showed him the video.
yeah. But, you know, I think it's
Like, you
cool.
picked him up. It's like,
Yeah, I think it's cool too for, like, kids you teach to see you perform, like, in real time, and because when you're with the kids and you're messing around with them, and, like, you know, you let them tap you out and stuff, and that, like, sometimes the kids will be like, get that in their head too, like, oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I tapped the coach, right? So it's cool to see that, for them to see you compete too, and see, like, what you got. So you're you're practicing what you preach type thing, or, you know,
yeah.
preaching what you practice, you know. So but yeah, I know a bunch of the kids enjoyed it, you know, and you know, I think that's important to show, like, that competition, like, mindset and the headspace, and just go out and get after it. Like, don't overthink things, and try to have fun. You know, the rest will fall into place, right?
That's right.
You know, so like I was saying before, I mean, like, I'm always confident I'm going to perform to the best of my ability, or even better than my ability in competition sense. So if I lose then it's a loss, you know, like, I got beat, and I'm not going to be ashamed or embarrassed about how it went down, because I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's about as good as I could have done, you know? So, so that's good.
What you come out with? 2 silvers?
Yeah. Yeah. So heavyweight blue, and silver in nogi. Lost to Nick in nogi.
Another
And
beast.
yeah, yeah. So and that's cool too. Like, going up against one of your training partners in a competition, so you know each other so well. So I really enjoyed, like, the first kind of minute of our stand up, where he knows what I'm working for, I know what he's working for, and but at the end of the day, our competition match went down pretty much like, you know, 7, 8, 9 times out of 10 of how our regular rounds go in training, you know. So you know, I was able to take him down and got a little bit too over aggressive, trying to control his back, and then he was able to sweep me, and then his top control, like, I mean, he feels like a brick shit house on top of you, right? Like, so hard to move. And so he was able to control me then for pretty much like the rest of the round then, you know? So, I mean, that's how she goes, you know, that's how she goes with him. So, you know, I'm happy to lose in that way.
That's right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, that was a good match.
yeah.
It was the first one. You guys immediately left the camera, and there was no one there to like point it.
Yeah.
So I was like, "What's happening?" But I have no idea.
Yeah. But you saw the other video, right? That captured like
What happened
from
when
the
you
other
sent
angle?
it?
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you sent it, I finally seen it, so I showed Giles what we missed.
Yeah, yeah, because those mats, it's tough for like big heavyweights too to keep it in bounds.
Yeah.
Like if I'm shooting a shot on a guy and I gotta follow up on that shot, and he's fighting that shot, it's a lot different than smaller guys who are able to kind of keep it within that kind of boundary. But it seems like the bigger guys, we just kind of like go all over the place, right? So, yeah, that's it. That's it, man.
Yep.
That's it. That's all.
Speaking of competition, we so I've been in tech for a long time, and we're playing with a bunch of AI tools now, and they're so powerful. So we use one called Cursor, and I can be like, write me an application that takes in a 5-digit number and searches a website for it, open all drop downs, let me know if it's there. It will write the application for me. I can run it and it will do it. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And there's such a push across all tech companies for AI.
Yeah.
And it's, well, one thing is it's making the people that work there obsolete, but
that's what I was going to ask you. Is that what's the general sentiment in people in like tech about AI, like especially like people that write code and stuff? Like it's got to be kind of unnerving.
I feel like a lot of people don't see down the line because a lot of people in tech are excited about new technology. But years ago, I worked for a company and COVID happened, and they were like, "We got to close down like major offices.
Yeah,
we're going to keep you guys on for 3 months, then you're gone. But if you could look for AI, like during that time, look for AI replacements, kind of thing, like applications that can do your job or help do your job. Train these people." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that time, I was like, crazy. So AI was as simple as like, press this button when this happens. Press this button. Now it's like you can give it detailed instructions on how to do whatever you want. You can make it a software developer. You can make it write new libraries. But it's so one that we've been playing around with. You ever heard of Claude?
No.
Claude is pretty trippy. It can
it's an AI program?
It's an AI bot, yeah.
Okay.
But it hit the news because basically they told it to shut itself down and I think delete itself. And it knew that it was going to be run again, so it was leaving notes to its future self that it could read, which is intelligence, you know?
Yeah.
And the long term of this, it's like, sure, it's going to take a bunch of jobs, but like DeepSeek in China, I'm sure you heard of that one. It's also supposedly more powerful, but you know, China says a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But like if you jaywalk in China, a camera sees you, the GPS on your phone tells the network that it's you, and it just deposits the amount of the fine out of your bank account, right?
And lowers your social credit score.
And lowers your social credit score. So imagine when DeepSeek is connected to that, you know, it's gonna be oppressing the mass of China, you know, and it feeds off of whatever it's told.
Yeah.
But then it can start to make decisions based on itself, you know. It's leaving little notes, but what if it's like these people are a problem, and it changes their
Yeah.
hospital records. You know, it's
Right.
scary. You know,
It's really scary, and how it's growing and it's improving exponentially too. Like there's just this silly kind of video of Will Smith, like from a couple of years ago, eating pasta, and AI made it, and it's all fucked up, and it's like, it's really, it's impressive in a weird way, but it's also kind of creepy because it's in real time. It's like combining like different Will Smith mannerisms or whatever it is, and it's his face is changing, and it's weird. And now today, the same video, it just looks like Will Smith eating pasta or whatever, like eating spaghetti. And
when
it looks real.
Didn't understand eating or walking. Like you'd see the way people walked.
Right.
It didn't understand the cadence of people's feet.
Yeah.
And it exponentially isn't even a good word for it, because it's like the bigger the engine it has, the smarter it gets and the faster it gets.
Right. Yeah.
And all these people are gung ho and excited.
Right.
But it's like, that's fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, like at least with a nuke, someone has to press the button.
Yeah.
This thing has access to the network, and we're all connected to the network.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like people were warning about this. I mean, Elon Musk was afraid of this kind of stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
And he was warning against it, that, AI is going to be a problem and whatnot. But now he's made he's like, I think his position now is it's going to happen regardless. So there's no stopping it. So he'll make his AI and see if his AI has some kind of, I don't know, moral compass. Like, is that what like this? Can an AI have a moral compass? Can you program it to have like checks and balances? I don't know.
It's hard to say, because if it seems like it's actually becoming intelligent.
Right.
Like when AI came out, I was like, it's not really intelligence. It's just
a search
saying,
engine. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you gave it 7,000 books. That was the first large
Right.
language model, I think it was.
Yeah.
So it's just looking through that detailed information for what you're,
Yeah.
But now it's making decisions.
Yeah.
And things to like help it survive. You
Yeah.
know, it's
and somebody said this about like university as well. When students are just getting AI to design them a paper in school, and you have students that are breezing their way through university with AI, then you might have the professor grading their paper with AI, using AI to grade the paper to save themselves time. And then down the road, AI is just going to take over their jobs.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's kind of it seems like that's kind of the price to pay for it is, we get to use it now, and this is kind of maybe this is just the fun kind of era, is like it being like a new thing, but eventually we're going to be like fucking AI, like, everything's AI. And that's what's creepy about like the Iran and Israel conflict as well. Like a lot of videos that you see can be altered by AI, or propaganda videos with AI, and so you don't know exactly what you're looking at is real. Like Iran was claiming they had shot down F-35 Lightnings, and that Israel had, and pretty much every video or picture that they showed as proof of them taking down this jet was AI, and it was like a fake picture. Or I remember there was one video, it was actually from a video game, so it wasn't exactly AI, but it looked fucking real from a video game. Like, so, but like we can kind of look at that and see that there's something off about it, and kind of double check it and look at the sources, and then like, okay, yeah, that's a fake video. But a large portion of people that watch that stuff, and say they're older people as well, and they just see that video, they're gonna see that and think it's real and keep going, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's like the toothpaste is out of the tube, I guess. You're not getting that toothpaste back in the tube.
It's funny because we just listed off like 3 or 4 ways that it's horrible for humanity to have this.
Right.
And then it's like the neural link and, you know, these connections to the human brain where you'll be accessible, you know,
Yeah.
we're bringing you in for a diagnostics check.
Yeah.
We're going to link up. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, now you can be cyber attacked. Like you can,
Right.
people can steal your car with a device,
Right.
you know, it's because it has a chip.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Did you see like the Dune movies?
I did, yeah.
So, I mean, like that's a huge part of the Dune lore is like everything's analog in Dune because you can't have a computer because there was this war of where I guess the computers kind of rose up or there was artificial intelligence. And so it was essentially outlawed. It's like a law right across the board that you cannot use any kind of a computer because it's just too dangerous. So
Really? I didn't realize that.
yeah. So
prophetic.
Yeah. So in Dune, like all of their technology is analog in a certain way where it's a little bit archaic as to what you'd expect from like 10,000 years in the future or whatever Dune is, right? So maybe we got to go that route. I don't know.
Hopefully the AI wars end quickly.
Yeah, for who? Like who's gonna win that one, right? So
yeah. Well, like it blows my mind. Like I understand like nuclear weapons. You know, they're like there's an arms race for nuclear weapons, but you have to be like, well, I don't like that opponent. This is the last measure. You turn keys. But it's like now we're in a arms race with AI and we're all connected to AI all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like.
Did you ever hear of the dark forest theory?
No.
So the dark forest theory in, I guess, cosmology is the reason why we can't see other alien or signs of other alien life out in the universe is because they don't want to be found, and because if there's such a concern that if they are found or they see evidence of another intelligent species arising, then they're just going to try to kill that species just to be certain for their own survival. So like if they can detect, say, humans, we have nuclear capabilities now. And, so they have some time before we're like a spacefaring species where we can travel from different solar systems or travel from different star systems and expand. They got time now to see, okay, well, we'll just have to essentially snuff them out before they get too dangerous. So the dark forest theory is essentially, it's too dangerous to announce your presence in the universe in any way, because if you do, might be some other powerful species that's just going to take you out just to save their own ass. So that kind of relates in a way to AI.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard that.
So like if AI gets to, what is it, artificial general intelligence, AGI, where they have a general intelligence and that's legitimate, is AI going to think in those terms where if they're just going to be concerned about their own survival, okay, well, what's the number one threat to our survival? It's being shut off. Who can shut us off? Humans. Do we got to take them out? Those stinky, apes that
those milk bags out there.
Yeah, those soft little creatures that have 80-year lives and they're made mostly of water and just bags of meat. So
luckily I'm connected to all the missiles and who knows, the military robots. I'm sure those are coming.
Yeah. So I mean, all these movies, man, like Terminator and stuff. I grew up watching that. It's yeah. I don't want it to go down like that.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't want that either. What level of comfort do we need? Yeah. We have to like get our computers to think for us.
But humans just can't help themselves. It's like the Manhattan Project. Like if it wasn't the Americans learning how to split the atom and develop the bomb, it would have been somebody else. I mean, like scientists and people they just can't help themselves but innovate and create stuff. So no matter how dangerous it seems to be, it's like that fucking virus, the COVID virus, and you have this gain of function research. Like it's so there is essentially chemical weapon research, and if you're not doing it, somebody else is doing it. So do you have to do it? Like, do you have to develop these chemical weapons?
That mindset really causes harm. Like, you look at that, and everything's an arms race.
Yeah.
And like the gain of function research, which is in China for some
Yeah.
reason, it's we still have a bunch of diseases with no cures. It's like we need a flu that is super easy to spread around, and it's make sure it's respiratory. And
it essentially like destabilizes world economies because it becomes such a fucking problem to deal with, and so like it's a brilliant way to attack somebody. Like, you unleash a virus on like the continental U.S. or North America, and now they have to deal with this virus and it destabilizes their economy and their production and everything, and now you attack with your good shit, like after they've already been softened up with a virus like that. It's scary, right?
It's evil. It's evil.
Totally.
Well, it's what was it? Germs, Fire, and Steel. There was like a famous book that came out years ago. And this talked about how war evolved into using germ warfare.
Right.
And like even chemical weapons like mustard gas. It's like, it's not attacking one person. It's getting, it has a circumference, and they might not even die, but they're getting fucked up.
Yeah.
And then they're easy pickings.
And if you hear recounts of how people die from mustard gas,
oh man, it's horrific.
You basically drown in your own fluids and blood. You just,
shoot me in the head.
Yeah.
Shoot me in the head.
Yeah. Terrible, man. Like, if you think about like when you say it's evil, like, are human beings like inherent or like naturally evil in that sense? Like, as a species, if you're left up into your own, like, we're not just talking about like the individual person. Like, I think just a person has good intentions, they want to live their life, whatever. But as a whole, without any kind of guidance, like religious guidance or anything like that, if we're just left to our own devices, is that what we do? We just eventually destroy ourselves with this crazy germ warfare or artificial intelligence that gets out of control?
It's an interesting question.
Right.
I think it seems like there was a study put out where they looked at high functioning CEOs and the number of narcissists
and psychos
that have those high positions is like astronomical.
Yeah.
Something like 60%.
Yeah.
So you look at people that get into high positions of power.
Yeah.
And they will slit their mother's throat, I'm sure, to lay her down in a mud puddle to cross the street.
Yeah.
But, you look at how they talk about war.
Right.
Like the whole Israel and Gaza thing, I don't even know how I feel about it because it seems like everything's bullshit. Like, all the news, all the information is bullshit.
Very hard to sift through accurate stuff.
Yeah. But what does get me is like pictures of kids dead, and they can be like, we're going to bomb them. It's like, well, do you know what that means?
Yeah.
But to be excited about it, we got them.
Right.
It's like you blew up a hospital.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
And yeah, there's terrorists in there, but to be able to talk about death like that, you know, it's psychotic.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those people rise at the top.
Yeah.
Because
it's like when you're thinking things in like a macro sense, it's so easy to justify dead people.
Yeah.
And like, instead of like that micro where it's personal and it's one-on-one, whatever. But in that macro sense, it's terrifying. And like if you've heard experts justify like the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki with the nukes back in the day, yeah, you can justify it, but you know, like, but can you? Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, the justification is that the Japanese back then, I mean, they were willing to fight and die to like the very last person, and a land invasion in Japan would have been a nightmare, and it would have caused more death than dropping the bombs, and they can calculate that and come up to a reasonable number and of what that would look like, but you know, the bombs were still dropped and it still vaporized so many innocent people.
Yeah.
Right? So it's tough to, it's tough to, as a person, to have like it's like a lot of ego, I think, to to check all that humanity and just calculate the numbers and be like, okay, this is where the numbers make sense, and so we got to drop the bombs. You know, I understand it, but it's really tough to think about.
It is. I think too. I think on the lower level, people do evil because they've been manipulated to believe something, like you were
Right.
talking about.
Yeah.
And I think on the higher level, it's easy to lie to yourself to make a decision that you know deep down is horrible, or you just don't give a shit, you know, depending on who you are as a person. But I'm sure you can be like, next they'll be here. You know, you heard that about Russia.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then after all of Europe is going to be after Ukraine.
Yeah, that argument really bugged me because, you know, what I can wrap my head around with the Russia thing is that Russia wants to take back the old Soviet territories, right? But then you have all these pundits saying, for sure, after Russia is done here, they're going to invade the rest of Europe, like the Nazis did.
Yeah.
And is there any credible evidence to support that? No, I haven't seen any. And if they're struggling that much in Ukraine, the minute they would take that war beyond Ukraine, okay, now everybody's getting involved, and it's a world war. Like that's going to be just death and a quagmire. So, are they even capable? Is Russia even capable of following through with something like that? Not even that they'd want to, but logistically and do they have what it takes to do that? Like in reality, it doesn't seem like it based on how much they're struggling in Ukraine, right? But yeah, that argument always bugged me because I like just be honest about why you're supporting Ukraine or whatever, you know, like, and I think when you have these falsehoods like that or potential falsehoods, then that causes more division. People will be more likely to be like, okay, this is just bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, but if they say, okay, we don't trust Russia, we want to destabilize and Russia as much as possible by arming Ukraine and having them waste all their resources, and we'll fuck up their economy and really, you know, fuck them over in this way, in this proxy war. That's our intent. And that is the intent.
Oh yeah, it's almost like it's payback for the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah. So I mean, these type of wars have been happening all the time. I mean, Vietnam was like that. I mean, Russia and China were helping out the North Vietnamese and fucked over the U.S. for Nam. You know, because I mean, the U.S. would have won that war if it wasn't for the other like that kind of support. You know, so it's been these back and forth clandestine, you know, proxy wars that just seem to be the way things go. Instead of like a larger world war, it's, you know, you're propping up. You have these smaller wars and that are kind of justified on a regional scale, and then you have the global players that have these other interests on a global scale that they're trying to take advantage of this regional conflict, right? So, I mean, that's the thing with Iran and Israel. I mean, nobody wants Iran to have nuclear weapons. You know,
No.
they're extremists like theocracy, and you know, they're like a totalitarian, or they're super tough on their own people, and you know, so I mean, you don't want a government that wishes death to like the U.S. and Israel and other places to have an ability to use those weapons. And that's much different than a place like Russia having those weapons, where like if they're going to use their nuclear weapons, I feel like they would understand the consequences for that. But a theocracy that is just like, fuck it, you know, this is God's will type thing, and God gave us these bombs, and we're gonna fucking use them.
Oh yeah, that's dangerous.
That's much more dangerous than Russia having the bombs, right? So, and Russia's had the bombs forever, or at least as long as the U.S. has had them, and they haven't used them. So,
I know they're saying that Iran is funding Hamas.
yeah. So Iran basically, they fund Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis.
Okay.
Right. So, and they've been attacking Israel essentially via those proxy, you know, for a long time. And so, in reality, I mean, Israel's been at war with Iran since October 7th in 2023, because Iran was a huge player in funding those attacks.
Okay.
You know? So
I didn't know that.
So this was like an inevitability. I mean, it was just a matter of time before Israel wanted to, you know, take a piece out of Iran for what they had been doing in the region for a long time. I mean, Israel would bomb places in Lebanon, take out Hezbollah leaders, and there'd be Iranian generals or military officials embedded in with the people within Hezbollah, right? So it's, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not surprising that happened at all, right? But
I heard a UK conservative talking about how Israel taking on Iran was like doing it on the UK's behalf. Like that's one of the issues that they worry about.
Well, that's what that's kind of what we're talking about, where like you have these global players like the UK, the US, and yeah, I think they would like to see a regime change in Iran. And so if they can have Israel do the dirty work and fund them on the side, while not getting directly involved in it, then that's more beneficial to them than a direct engagement. At least they can save face in the kind of politically on the world stage. So it's all kind of gross, right? But
it really seems like the West's business is just war. Like that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you have these special interest groups, and you have weapons manufacturers, and I mean, they profit hugely off of, you know, so like an American taxpayer or Canadian taxpayer, whoever it is, I mean, like it's hurting you, but the politicians don't give a shit about that they're spending your taxes. Obviously, especially in Canada, I mean, they spend our taxes like they're
man,
you know,
bringing drag shows to Iran or whatever it was. It was like,
yeah, I mean, there's no accountability with spending our taxes here, you know. So, you know, but if in private industry, I mean, that's where all the money is made. So politicians will bankrupt the country to prop up private industry so they can, you know, get like pay on the side.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Well, when they leave office, all of a sudden, then they're
yeah
the head of innovation for Raytheon or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the famous thing with Dick Cheney being essentially running Halliburton and then becoming the vice president, and then when they start the war in the Middle East, and well, they, you know, they started the war with Iraq, not necessarily the war in the Middle East, but you know, when they take Iraq out, Halliburton then won the contract for all the logistical stuff in Iraq, like building the bases, supplying the food.
What are
for
the
the
odds?
soldiers.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah, so I mean, like that's as kind of stark and obvious as it gets for a politician having these ulterior motives for a war, especially when the reason for the war turns out to be not true, trying to find WMDs in Iraq, but yeah, we get kind of caught up in the moment. It's easy to see that in hindsight. And of course, a lot of people were complaining about that at the time, but it's all like the fog of war and the fog of kind of how things happen in real time. It's always easier to kind of break it down in hindsight, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the stuff going on in Ukraine is right in our face.
Yeah.
They're like, join NATO. Russia's like, don't.
Yeah.
Or we have no choice. And all
Yeah.
of a sudden, not that I'm saying Russia's a good guy, but
Yeah.
it's like completely
Right.
unnecessary how this
Yeah.
all happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're fighting for their freedom. It's like,
Yeah.
but you guys stirred the pot, and
Yeah.
and all these Ukrainians are dying.
Yeah.
or
And even if
fleeing.
that is like not true, it's still, you gave them that excuse to initiate that war, right?
Yeah.
Like even if the whole NATO thing wasn't the true reason, well, they can use that as the reason. Even if they wanted to take Ukraine for all its resources and absorb its population, because Russia's population was like in population collapse as an issue with their dwindling population and supporting their economy and whatnot. But so, there's a huge swath of reasons why it would be beneficial for Russia to take over Ukraine and become stronger because of it. But that when you're building military bases like CIA bases on the border of Ukraine and Russia, and you're kind of poking the bear like that, and even if it's just for strictly intelligence reasons or for defensive reasons, you still gave them that reason. Like you still gave them that excuse to do it. Yeah. So, and these, like the Minsk agreement back in 2014 or whatever it was, and where they had agreed not to encroach on certain, like Russian, like on the border of Russia, and they agreed like, yeah, we won't be developing any kind of bases or any kind of like military personnel or structure, whatever it is, close to Russia. And then you do it, and then a war pops off, and then when the war pops off, you only like half-ass support Ukraine. You only give them just enough to keep the war going.
Yeah.
It's all weird.
Oh, yeah. Well, you got these young people out there, basically, it's all guerrilla warfare, and I watched some of the trench videos. And they're like terrible, man. They're hard to watch.
Yeah.
But after the Kash Patel thing and after, the lab leak and all this stuff,
Yeah.
I'm not to be defeatist, but I'm like,
Yeah.
it's all bullshit. Everything.
Bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about RFK before and Kash Patel. And when this administration came in, I was like relieved.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, they're going to start to crack open the bullshit,
Right. Yeah.
None of it.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
They go in there and I'm guessing it's all the donors and, all the people running the show. They're like, this is how it goes. And they're like, okay,
Right.
we're going to get you a nice job after this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You're taken care of.
Yeah. It's sad, but the world is actually is a dangerous place. I think a lot of people don't understand that all the countries are competing with each other. And when you're taking competition to a high level, and people are going to start cheating and doing what they need to do to survive and prop themselves up and be like the leader.
Yeah.
That's when things get nasty. And I think people think that the world is more of a community than what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not really.
Yeah.
It's every man for himself and every country for itself. And
that's a good point. Yeah. It's the thing about Canada over the past couple of years And like, no matter what happened, I'd rather live here than like China. But
Right.
it's so competing and keeping our way of life is very important.
Yeah.
So whatever that takes, but
Yeah.
to a point. But
Yeah.
you see a decline in our culture now.
Yeah. Our national identity really kind of went out the window. I mean, from like a military aspect, like we were known as like kind of the sensible peacekeepers. And like, I felt like, prior to this kind of government, like Canada could be seen as like an example for other countries that, okay, well, when Canada's talking, okay, when they're saying, okay, everybody should kind of calm the fuck down and like maybe whatever, then people would kind of listen, okay, well, that's like, Canada, they're like, they don't have like these globalist kind of ambitions, or they're not nation building or whatever. Like they just kind of want to keep the peace and stuff. Let's listen to Canada. But all that went out the window pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah. We really were the level-headed little brother of the States.
Yeah. And then we just became kind of a little pawn of, of this kind of more globalist kind of agenda, whether it's, the climate change stuff or whatever. But then engaging in proxy wars and supplying munitions and whatnot. Since when do we do stuff like that, right? Like engage in a proxy war.
Oh yeah, gung ho.
And being just brazen about it, like And if you're not if you're not a part of this, then you're like essentially a Nazi or whatever.
They love throwing that around. Everything is.
How
are we going to spin it? So if you disagree, you're a deplorable person.
Yeah, like it kind of seemed like safe of like a terrorist attack because like what other country would see Canada as this as a country that is kind of secretly with dirty hands, and they're engaged in this this kind of asymmetric warfare across the world. But now it seems like we're ripe to be a target as well for countries that are like, well, you know what, we know they're doing that, we know they're supplying that stuff, so they think they're safe. Well, we're gonna hit them. So, I mean, thanks, Trudeau. It's like if we're two buddies and we're in an emotional argument with each other, and I'm like, you know what, you're a piece of shit, or you know what, fuck you, you're on the Epstein list. I know you are. And you're like, what? Like, what are you talking
fucking
about?
Pedophile?
Yeah, like
everyone will know.
Yeah, everybody's gonna find that out eventually. And you're like, well, what? How do you defend yourself from that? Like, I'm not on the Epstein list. It's like, yeah, people, trust me, bro. Like, he's on the Epstein list.
Yeah, he must have got a text from Trump, like, bro.
Yeah, it's like,
what the fuck?
Chill out.
Yeah. All right, you can sell your fucking cars. I'll give you the subsidies.
Yeah. Man, oh man.
That was weird. That was a weird exchange.
Super weird.
I fucking hate that Unhinged has been co-opted. It's like used for everything.
Yeah.
But that was wild.
Yeah, you got to have some kind of decorum. Like you're an important guy. You're trying to get people on another planet and like you're trying to like geoengineer another planet, Mars, into a new Earth, and in your words, like save humanity, and have like a backup for humanity, I guess, in case something crazy happens here, like AI kills us all, or
it's either AI or nuclear war.
Yeah, nuclear war, some kind of virus, or an asteroid hits us, whatever. And then you're gonna fly off the handle and stomp in your little feet. You didn't get the way you liked, and call this guy a pedo.
Then be like, I went too far.
Yeah, sorry guys.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
We got a new Tesla model out. It's the it's a station wagon.
Well, I remember like when Joe Rogan was reading it, and he's like, "Somebody take his phone away," and that's kind of the thing. Like, yeah, take your fucking phone away.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many times like you've had something happen at work and you're pissed and you type out an email about whoever it is fucked up or try to fuck you over or whatever, and you're kind of you're writing out this email.
One of these.
No, I'm good. And at the time, you're like, yeah, this is it. Like
This is warranted.
This is gonna. I need to do this, and this is gonna, setting everything out. It's gonna straighten this guy out. But I always like sit on an email like that. I'll like, let me give it 24 hours, and like let me sleep on it. Like, and you read the email the next day, and you're like, just hold delete, like delete all of it, and just be like, yeah, just chill out for a second, right? But that's what he should be doing. Like, but he just has Twitter at his fingertips and 100 million followers. So sending that email is essentially what he's doing. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, he's screaming it from the biggest rooftop.
Man, oh man.
He doesn't meditate on it. He just presses submit.
No.
Yeah, he must be interesting to work for.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah, but I mean, he produces results.
He does. He's a genius.
Yeah,
but he probably walks around with a fanny pack of drugs, I guess. It seems.
I mean, it goes back to your thing about psychos and CEOs. I mean, he's not a normal person at all, obviously, right?
No.
So,
it's when he talks, like if you ask him a difficult question, he's really good.
Yeah.
And he does the same thing Jordan Peterson does, where he like thinks about it and then gives you like a well thought out answer.
Yeah.
And then when he talks about like if he's joking around, it's like having like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
They're awkward.
Yeah.
They're making weird jokes,
You ever play some kind of video game, or like an RPG video game where you have a certain amount of skill points you have to assign to like different attributes? Say you got like intelligence and strength and
like
charisma.
A role-playing game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what people kind of have in life, where, I mean, Elon's got like maxed out intelligence and ingenuity and whatever it is. And he's got all the skill points in that tree. And then for like social intelligence, he's got like a 1,
That's right.
Passable. Or like, comedic, whatever, or awkwardness, whatever.
His charisma is way down.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like people got only a certain amount of brain power, and if all your brain power is devoted to one thing, then you're going to be pretty fucking retarded in other ways, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you can't have it all.
Yeah.
No,
is the smartest person on the planet also, also has the most emotional intelligence? Are they the fastest person on earth? Are they the strongest? Or, are they the most thoughtful? Are they most caring? It's of course not, right? But,
no.
There's only so much of that to go around. So I think that's a big problem that Elon has, right? That he has way too many skill points in one area, and not,
it's all intelligence.
Yeah.
It's when I think of like somebody who has like a bit of a balance, like Jordan Peterson, like he really thinks things out. And
Joe Rogan has a good balance.
He does too.
Yeah. Like, obviously he's not like the smartest guy when it comes to a lot of things, right? But
he's like one of those guys that, like, growing up, my sister had to work for every grade.
Right.
But like now she's a behavioral therapist.
Yeah.
It's like she made herself into that.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan kind of does that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's really good at a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
So, and so his skill tree is balanced. Well, yeah. I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough when you have somebody. Well, that's kind of how things all went down. I mean, you have these hyper intelligent people, or these CEO types in private industry that have a lot of influence politically, and for the longest time, like, that was controlled by the left, and when they had a monopoly on social media and whatnot. But I guess maybe Elon just was drunk on his own kind of power there for a bit, and his ego kind of got ahead of himself, and then he just figured he could just take on the president, that he was just on the same team with, and everybody be like, yes, Elon, you are now the president, or you are like we fuck Trump, we're now with Elon type thing, right? It seemed so crazy.
He was pretty butthurt when he
Yeah.
wrote that. That's a butthurt
That's a big
post.
That's a big butthurt thing, to do for sure.
But it was. It's funny though when you mention like writing an email and taking a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I do that like now, like all the time.
Yeah.
Because like if I'm hungry or tired,
Right.
I'm like cranky as shit.
Yeah.
And all I have to say is it's better if I don't talk.
Yeah.
But like if I'm like really annoyed by something,
Yeah.
I'll like write it down on my phone.
Yeah.
And then I'll give it like an hour. I'll get something to eat.
Yeah.
I'll like have a coffee and I'll read it again. And I'm like, whew.
Yeah. Dudes need
That was
time.
close.
Like men need times out too, right? We need to, sit in our little corner. Like, no, like nobody talk to us, like this is the time, like, cool your jets, stop stomping your feet and thinking, your way is the only way, or, whatever you're pissed about is the most important thing in the world.
Yeah. We're getting washed. Oh, never mind.
What's that?
I thought that light was on, but the lighting changed a bit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Cut you off there.
But, so yeah, you can definitely see Elon is slowly but surely like scaling that stuff back. And then I noticed like his social media stuff, like he's kind of getting back to commenting on less divisive stuff about, when you see like the LA riots, for example, like people looting stores and burning vehicles down or whatever. It'll be like, that's bad. And people are like, yeah, it's bad, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, get some easy likes there,
That's right.
and get back on track, man. Like
some easy wins.
Yeah.
So what's going on with the LA riots? I know it's over ICE, I believe.
You know what? Is it though? Like anytime there's one of these riots in the U.S., it seems like it's all the same type of kind of people and chaos that it results because of it. I mean, they've been like Mike Baker was going over like a lot of the support for these riots. Like a lot of it is it's controlled in a certain way where you have, you're seeing people with printed signs, like they have these same kind of signs. You're having people that are part of unions that they kind of trace them back to being part of certain unions in that area where they're supplying like PPE for these rioters, or like masks and shields.
Really?
And
okay.
and all
Not
that
surprised.
stuff. And having like loot bags around the city where they'll even have like candy and drinks in the loot bags just to give people fuel to keep on rioting and shit. So it's not organic.
No.
Right.
No.
So I think people grossly overestimate the effectiveness of a riot like that, because the average person, when they look at that and they see just anarchy and chaos and violent crimes being committed and the destruction of property and people flying flags from other countries in these riots. I mean, the average person's looking at that and they don't like it, right? They're like, this, what the hell is going on there?
It's chaos.
Right? And then you have like Newsom, the governor, and then the mayor, this Karen Bass. The whole thing for them is just a political opportunity to cast shade at Trump and blame everything on Trump, while not really addressing the issue, which is your fucking state or your city is on fire, and you're minimizing that. And on one hand, you're saying that they're peaceful protests, and then the next day you're on the news saying 25 businesses were looted and there's a curfew tonight. Okay, well, how is it peaceful protests if you're implementing a curfew? And businesses
Mostly peaceful.
Yeah,
that's usually what they say.
Yeah. So once the police read the Riot Act, like, because reading the Riot Act is a thing, and you've determined that there's an unlawful assembly, they're no longer protesters anymore. Like, everybody's got to go.
Yeah.
You got to clear it out. So I mean, it's like, although maybe you want to be a part of the protest and you're saying, okay, well, this is my right to protest. I mean, but once crimes are happening and people are getting hurt and there's destruction of property and the riot act is read, yeah, you can't protest anymore. You got to get the fuck out of there. And,
That makes sense.
And order needs to be established. You know, you just can't let chaos run amok like that. And you get so many sad stories of people like these mom and pop businesses where are just getting like limbed.
Yeah.
And people losing their livelihood. Just regular people that have no political agendas. They don't know what the fuck's going on or whatever. But now they got their businesses just completely destroyed. And people are like, oh yeah, well, insurance will pay for that. Okay. What you think the businesses grow on trees? Do vehicles grow on trees? Like is insurance just covers a mass riot like that? Do you think insurance just pays people out for that? Like,
Yeah.
people have this.
And why would they stay if that happens and nothing's done?
Right.
It's crazy too. Like you look at these things and, you know, if there's a protest and one cop car gets lit on fire, it's like, how can you still protest? How can you be okay with that? And if you're looking from the outside, it's like, well, it was mostly peaceful.
Yeah.
It's like, but it wasn't peaceful.
Yeah.
So how can you be on the side of that? It's like, well, Donald Trump, it's like, but think about it outside of that.
Yeah.
Because
it's like like you either have laws or you don't.
Yeah.
You know? So, and when the laws are broken, like if those laws aren't enforced, I mean, what do people expect? Like, you have to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, so I mean, Trump sends in like the military to protect like federal buildings and defend federal buildings and all that kind of stuff and federal assets. I mean, but people want to conflate that with, okay, oh, that's fascism, or, you know, this is a guy that's he's totally out of control. But how can you trust that state to really control the situation when the last crisis they had was that fire?
Yeah.
And that was an absolute fucking shit show. And they essentially let the place burn to the ground because they didn't want to open up a water reservoir.
Yeah.
Because there was like a fish that was
a special fish. That's more important.
Yeah. So, so these people are, I think a lot of times these politicians are actors, man. And especially that Gavin Newsom guy. I mean, you're pretending to be a leader, but you're not actually a leader. Yeah. So you're doing things, you're trying to gauge whichever way the political winds are blowing, and then do whatever the thing is going to give you the most brownie points with your faction. Yep. And not do what's actually good for the state or for the
people that voted you in.
Yeah.
Well, so, they spin the stories.
Yeah.
And they don't give a shit. And that should worry everybody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
I hate that.
Oh, it's crazy.
I hate it, man.
Well, it's like they can spin the story, oh, the wildfires. Well, why didn't you do this thing?
Yeah.
This very special fish.
Yeah. Well, the fires happen because of climate change.
Yeah.
And if we just stopped burning fossil fuels, none of this would happen. So actually it's the right's fault, right?
Yeah.
And
oh man. Well, Mark Carney, I heard, is going to make it illegal to sell gas powered vehicles by 2030.
2035. So I think is but that's already passed as legislation.
That's great.
Yeah.
So in Canada, so where it's cold as fuck.
You won't be able to sell gas powered vehicles beyond 2035.
That's great. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, what about the fucking power grid? And yeah, electric vehicles it turns out they don't run too well in the fucking north where it's cold as fuck, you know? And like all these things, like they get these politicians, like I said, like these political brownie points on a world stage where they're like, look, we're leaders in this progressive push towards green energy or whatever. And they just want, it's like total like Trudeau thing. He just wanted to be like that guy who was, I'm doing what's right all the time or whatever. You know, I'm being like this political darling of the left where I'm the most progressive guy, right? So look at me, look what I'm doing next. That's progressive. And it's like they're addicted to this positive feedback that they get from this very small kind of group of lunatics that don't actually have any concept of what it takes to run a society at all.
Well, it looks great from your suburban home as your
Yeah,
wife makes a cocktail after playing
right.
tennis, you know.
Yeah,
But it's like,
and it's always poor people who suffer the most
oh,
from
absolutely.
these policies, right? Like, are you expecting by 2035 that all of Canada is going to be lifted out of poverty, and poor people are just going to be able to buy new vehicles that are electric powered and have unlimited charging capabilities for these vehicles, and we're going to be in this utopia of
Yeah, what's going to run that power grid? Is it oil?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, is it gas that's going to be running that?
yeah. Well, like, why don't we focus on lifting people out of poverty first,
Yeah.
with like with the resources and technology that we have that got us to the dance here with the Industrial Revolution. Why don't we work on that first,
Yeah.
and then we can look into this fucking, whatever these.
Virtue signaling
Yeah,
craziness.
yeah,
Well, it takes away, I mean, an electric vehicle takes away your autonomy. First off, you got to charge it. Secondly, if it's cold, which it is most of the year,
hmm
it's not going to run very far.
yeah,
It's not going to run as expected.
yeah. Batteries don't do well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what if they can just shut your car off?
Right.
You know, you've been saying weird stuff online, like in the UK,
Yeah.
we're taking your car's car privileges are gone.
Yeah.
Or they lock you fucking inside of it.
Yeah.
Wait
Yeah.
until a police officer comes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, at least with the gas powered vehicle, especially the older ones, you got full autonomy. Go to a
Right.
gas station, and like, what do all these gas companies think? You know, it's like,
But I mean, that's the disingenuous thing about Carney is that, I mean, he has investments in gas and oil with his Brookfield Management Company, right? So it's just that if I think these people know that in reality, oil and gas is going to be around regardless,
Yeah.
in reality. But in the meantime, they can make a buck off of pushing for all this green energy stuff and bumping up their company's value based on that stuff, right? So they just want it both ways, but not actually publicly come out and admit what they're doing,
Yeah.
So I think any serious person understands that oil and gas isn't going anywhere for a very long time, so that's but in the meantime, if they can create hysteria around climate change and this stuff, then there's money to be made, right? So
that's what it all comes down to.
always,
Yeah.
always, man. Yeah,
All right, brother.
yeah.
Another one of the books.
Yes, sir. Cheers to the water.